this petition, no matter where you are located. You can access it and get online, change.org, and sign that petition. And Larry just gave me the new number, Andy. They're up to 158,596 signatures, which is fantastic.
That's certainly a good number, but how many do they actually need to effect some sort of response?
Larry, I think, said it was over 44,000, Larry, they still, Beep, that they still need?
No, it's 41,404.
41. So since I've been having you on the air, it went from 44 down to 41. Okay. But
so it has to have 200,000 signatories.
I think that's what they're looking for, Andy.
Yeah.
The more powerful impact it'll have. And although, politicians are doing crazy things, there's a couple of politicians that are getting behind this effort, from her district, and trying to talk some common sense into the administration and those that made this policy. It's non-medical people that came up with this arbitrary number of 12 that you'll be offered first choice. And because Sarah is number one on the list, but because she's 10 years old, she actually moves to the back of the list, and they offer it to folks that might not be as heavily involved with the medical situation and have their life, in the balance right now. They're estimating that in 2 weeks, if she does not get the lungs she needs, she will not be with us any longer, and that's it's totally wrong. Totally wrong.
It is totally wrong. But let me ask you one question, and in fact, let me put this question to everybody who is listening from the United States. Ernie, you've just said that a couple of the politicians from where the area where the girl lives has got behind this petition. Why haven't the rest of the politicians got behind it, and why haven't do the people from the United States who have themselves as individuals signed this petition intend to lobby their own representative both in the Senate and in Congress, and indeed in the more local government, to actually get behind it too?
That is a very important statement you just made, my friend. And as a matter of fact, when I was in Jay's chat room last night, I was talking about that same exact issue. And you and I are so much on the same page in many of these things. But anyway, I contacted I have 2 representatives and 2 senators here in my state. We're very small here, so we only have a small representation in Congress and the Senate. And they're all Democrats, which is the party of the current president, obviously. And I called them all and encouraged them to please look at this issue. And I talked to a couple of their high-level staff members, and they assured me that the congressmen and the senators were aware of what was happening with this story, and they were on board with this petition, and they were on board with changing this.
But does the people in the United States actually know that?
No,
because the reality is, from what you've told me, that only 2 members that are involved in government have actually come out publicly and are behind this. Surely it should be that every single member of the Senate, every single member of Congress, and every single member of your more local government type groups should all be out publicly, not only saying yes, that this is wrong, but they should be saying, yes, we get everybody to sign the petition, so that you don't end up with just 200,000 petitions, but you end up with 300 million petitions plus, which means not only if you end up with that, then the government is going to actually not only have to make a statement, but they're actually going to have to do something about it. Because if basically every person in America signed this petition, then there is absolutely no way the government could actually not do nothing about it.
Very well said, my friend, and I echo that statement. The 300 million people, every person in this country should be behind this, because God forbid you're ever in the same shoes as this poor family right now, and what they're going through and the red tape they're having to cut to get this girl's life saved and get her the lungs she needs. It's all they're asking for. They're not asking for anything special. They're just asking to be treated as everybody else is treated, and just because of her age, it should not be different, and she should not move in back of the queue just because she's under 12 years old, which is a crazy, arbitrary number. But to echo your statement, every politician, every congressman, every senator, everybody in the country should be behind this. It's absolutely
Yes.
correct. You're absolutely correct.
But also because the White House hasn't made a statement on it yet, and because most of the politicians haven't at least come out publicly, even if they are supporting it in private, then it's only being covered by, from what I understand, one news network at the moment.
Yeah, there's pretty much only one that's really pushing this and advertising this whole effort and campaign. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on and what party you're affiliated with here in the country or around the world for that matter. It's all about this young girl and doing what's right and the common sense thing. It's such a crazy, unbelievable law or rule they have. And these companies that run these organ donor programs are all under the auspices and the control of the U.S. government. They're sort of contracted out to carry on with these programs. So, the government and those in charge can do something about it and change this policy. But like you said, Andy, they got to get out and beat the drum. I was so disheartened the other day. I got in there just to check the number the other night, and it was under 100,000 still, which surprised me. I thought we'd be well over 100,000 at that point in time when I checked it. But I went over. They also have some other surveys and so forth on that site, change.org. And there was one they were talking about. They're changing the look of a Disney doll, and there was like 249,000 people that got into that and got involved with that, and we're under 100,000 with Sarah, which is a real life and death situation. So that was so disheartening to see that people, are more concerned about the look of a Disney doll than a person, a real life. I just was so upset by that when I saw that on that site.
Yes, but you see, I want to know, if I was an American citizen, I would want to know, because this isn't a political issue.
Absolutely right.
Right, this is an issue pertaining to somebody's life.
Absolutely.
That I'd want to know why it isn't so widely available public. Why aren't the other news networks carrying it? Why aren't all of the politicians publicly out there saying we need to do something about this? Why isn't it being discussed as a priority in the Senate and the Congress? And why hasn't the President of the United States of America in the first place come out and said this is wrong and we need to change this? Because it's not political, it's common sense. We allow transplants. You either allow transplants for everybody or you don't allow transplants at all.
Right.
And the reality is that the president can make it. You don't need 200,000 signatories to get the president actually to make a statement on this, and the White House to make a statement on this. It should be common sense that they actually come out and make a statement on it in the first place and say, yes, we're going to do something about it, as should the leader of the Congress, as should the leader of the Senate, and every member of both those bodies, in which case, if they really wanted to, they could change the law overnight.
Absolutely. She could get hers today. She could get those lungs she needs to save her life today.
It's not about see. This is the part that annoys me. It's not actually about signatories. This is about the fact, from my perspective, this is about the fact that these people already know there's an issue, already know that it's wrong morally. Right? They already know it's got nothing to do with politics at the end of the day.
Right.
And there's absolutely no reason why they couldn't all come out and say, right, no, we're going to do something about this, and we're going to change it now. Not next week, not next month, not next year. Now,
today, this minute.
When they wanted to go into, when the U.S. government decided they wanted to go into Iraq, it was done. Yeah?
Yes, absolutely. You're right about that, Andy. Absolutely correct.
Right, which proves the point that if the government is of a mind, then they can do it, and they can do it very, very quickly.
Absolutely correct, my
And
friend.
I think people in the States should be asking their politicians and asking their president publicly why we haven't heard from many of them yet.
You know, and one congressman, Andy, if I could just interject, made a good point that Sarah is not the only one in this situation. There are other children in our country whose families are trying to cut through this red tape as we speak. So, you know, this is more global. She's sort of the face of this whole thing right now, but there are other children that are also in the same boat, in the same situation. And so I echo your statement 100% wholeheartedly that every clear-thinking politician, which hopefully that we got a few left. But anyway,
well, you've only got to ask the one question, which you kind of said in the relation to yourself. Bep has also said I would echo, but you've only got to ask the question of these individuals: what if it was your daughter?
Amen. That's right.
What would you be doing then? Yeah. I guarantee you, it would be on every news channel in the United States of America.
You're right about that, Andy. That's unfortunately the way it works. I hate to be cynical, but
that's why they need to be. That's why they need to be asked. Why aren't you out there? And why aren't you out there in public? They may all, for all we know, have signed the petition. I don't know. I mean, because obviously we don't know who signed the petition.
Right. Exactly.
But this is not about signing a petition. This is about the government can make a change overnight if they really, really want to. They could rush through the legislation if they wanted to and have this changed within 24 hours.
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that could happen, and that should be happening. I like every day I keep watching the news when I wake up in the morning, waiting to see that story where they finally come to a common sense decision and decided to help this young girl. And I haven't seen it yet. It's unbelievable how long this has taken. She's been 18 months on the list to start with, and her situation is going critical now. And time is of the essence. So
the time is often of the essence when anybody needs a transplant, whether they are 1 year old or whether they are into their 70s or 80s. When you need a transplant of certain organs, it is usually, at the end of the day, the end result of no transplant is usually death at some point.
Right.
There are ways of prolonging people's lives, medication-wise and stuff like that, but that can only work for a certain length of time. When somebody needs a critical replacement, the only actual end solution is getting that critical replacement in the first place. And I want to ask everybody in the United States that listens to this show, and listens to any show on Vale FM radio for that matter, get out there. Ask your local radio station, your local TV station, the main news coverage that you watch. Why aren't they covering this story? Ask your local politicians, to not go up onto the website and sign the petition, but to get into the Senate or Congress and get a law passed to change it and get on with it.
That's right.
This is a moral, common sense issue. This is not about the Democrats. This is not about the Republicans. It's about people and people's lives.
Very well said, my friend. Very clear, concise, and very understandable to everybody. I hope they're getting that message. And people, you need to pick up the phone or get on the computer, whatever you need to do. All the information is available on how to contact these folks that are the decision makers in our country, and we need to do it right now, today. As Andy said, we can't delay. This should be changed right now, this minute. And if you don't mind, gentlemen, I'm just going to play a brief news story by Fox, is the one network that has been heavily involved with talking about this issue and has had the mother on several times, and relatives of young Sarah and little friends of hers. So I'm just going to play this for it's 2 minutes long. And it's just a little story that the local Fox network in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where she's been in hospital for the last 3 months. She's so sick she has not been able to leave in over 100 days. So I'll be right back with Andy Fraser, our director. Thank you so much for joining us, Andy, and Beep is with us as well.